Welcome to the Labyrinth. I'm your host, Pratham Pado. If you would like to support my podcast, buy my t-shirt, link is in the description. My guest today is Madhusudan Raj. He is an assistant professor of economics and he teaches Austrian economics at the Department of Human Resources Development at Veer, Narmad, South Gujarat University. He also has his own institute called Mises India. I have put certain links in the description. These links contain Madhusudan Raj's articles and his blog. Do check them out, especially if you're interested in Austrian economics and anarcho-capitalism. Okay, Madhusudan, welcome to the Labyrinth. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you, Pratham, for inviting me to your show, Labyrinth.
So,
thanks.
So, how do you feel about the direction in which this country is going right now?
How do I feel? Okay, there are, from the personal perspective, I feel whatever is happening is for good. Why? Because you have to understand from which position I come to. I am basically an anarcho-capitalist. So I believe in complete freedom. And for that, I believe that the nation state must be disintegrated because the centralized power is the problem. That is what is, not allowing individuals to live their life properly. We have too much of centralization of power. So I believe that we will see, we will discuss about the economy in a while. So when Indian economy and other things are slowing down and performing very badly, the center is going to become weak. And that means individual state will have, I guess, more power in future because, and then I don't know, maybe India will disintegrate also, because when you have internal weaknesses, when your performance on economic front is not very good, when you don't have resources, what is going to happen is the nation state basically will disintegrate. Now, I cannot discuss everything about the nation state, what it is, how it is formed, what it is not, what are its strengths and what are its weaknesses. The basic performance should be economic performance, and as economies are slowing down, country will be, nation state will be, country is a different concept, nation state will probably disintegrate. I cannot give you the time frame, but that is it looks like that is the future of this country. And once that happens, individual states can go on its own and do better. If the population of that state is hardworking and more productive, local government can be different, then what can happen is people like these cities and these states, they can have, smaller states, they can have more opportunities to grow and develop faster than what the whole nation state is doing right now. So for example, I'm from Gujarat, and I'm from Surat city in Gujarat. It has a lot of potential. It has been an entrepreneurial city since long. It was actually established by a businessman, not by some conqueror. Gopi Seth, his name is, and Surat has a lot of potential to grow very fast. But what happens right now is, because India is a federal kind of setup, is a central state, centralized nation state. Surat city people cannot make their own policies, so we have to follow the dictates of Delhi. I'm sure the same is true for cities like Mumbai or other cities, where like Gujarat, Maharashtra. These are some of the states where population is hardworking and they can do well. There can be other smaller places, let's say in Uttar Pradesh. There, I don't know much about the Uttar Pradesh demography and everything, but I'm sure there are some places in that area, big area, who can do well once the grip of central government becomes loose. So from my perspective, my personal perspective, that is what I am seeing, right? And from the ordinary people's perspective, conditions are going to become bad and economic performance is going to deteriorate. It is deteriorating. If you see policies after policy disasters, right? Not just the Modi government, but all successive governments, right? But with Modi government, it has really started to go down, like demonetization and botched implementation of GST. And after that, this senseless lockdowns in the name of a virus which is not even killing point,
Yeah.
2% or 0.2% of people.
Yeah, we'll come back to these policies later, but
Uh-huh.
I want to say that when you talk like this to the general public who are conditioned to think that the nation state is good, they will react by saying, "Oh, you're an anti-national. You're this. You're that." How do you
I don't.
react to such people?
I don't care. See, Pratham, I'm an economist, and my job is to objectively analyze economic forces, economic social forces that are brewing, in the country. So I am just an observer. I am just a messenger. If people want to shoot the messenger, then that is not going to change the trajectory on which this nation state is. So it doesn't really matter to me what people are saying. Once I see the laws of economics working, and they always work, and according to those laws, the future is not good at all. The way everything is going on, make in India, protectionism is going up. Not just me, even mainstream economists. Like, I have just published one article on my website, Mises India, my institute's website, that Narendra Modi is second Jawaharlal Nehru. So former economic advisor, chief economic advisor of Narendra Modi, Arvind Panagaria, he is from Columbia University. Basically, he also penned down one article in Times of India after resigning from Modi administration, the first term, saying that this is all deja vu. This is like we are living all again the Nehruvian, centralization and import substitution and inward-looking policies. All this protectionism, import duties going up, quotas, banning items from China, this and that country. It's not going to be good. And he said that if you're trying to raise revenue, I can understand because he's a mainstream economist. But he said they are not doing it for that. They are doing it to promote the local business people. Like, for example, what is the purpose of banning steel from China when you have competitors like Tata? Now, Tata does not need any protection from the Indian government. They have to perform well in the steel sector if they cannot just get out, right? So even yesterday I was reading, in fact, I'm going to write one more article. I'm in middle of writing that article. These people are saying that, India is going to become a fastest economy. And just wait, what the news is, I'm just going to read it to you. It says, no, well, I think I don't have it right now. Missed it. But anyway, so it was something about that, how banning imports and everything is going to benefit India, make in India and all that. It's not going to really, because if you don't import things from China, the cost of production in India is going to increase. That's not going to create any jobs, actually. It's going to destroy jobs and everything. It's some complicated, logic people don't understand. So I don't care what people say, right? I am an economist and I see what is happening, and I always speak my mind. I have always spoken my mind, and it's up to the people if they want to take me seriously or not, because whether they like it or not, what is happening, and what is going to happen is going to happen. Denial is not going to stop the truth from working on its own. So truth will stand on its own. Okay. And so I really don't care what public is going to say. Anti-national, whatever, who cares? Yeah. I am not anti-national. I am the one who is worried about my country very much. I'm a proud Indian. I love my country, not the nation state. Nation state is an organization which is, in which name people rule, the politicians, bureaucrats, and all these people, parasitical class of our society. They rule over us from Delhi or whatever the center is, Gandhinagar in Gujarat, for example. I am against that, not against my country. I am worried and I'm writing all these things because I'm worried about my countrymen. Now, if my countrymen cannot see the facts and the truth, then what can I do to that? I'm just a messenger, and if they want to shoot the messenger, then it's not going to change their condition at all.
So once we get rid not us, but eventually, as some of your theories suggest, the Republic of India may eventually disintegrate or may get decentralized. What do you think will start sprouting after that? Will Gujarat or will Surat have a minarchist small government, or do you think there will be
It
something
depends
else?
on, sorry, yeah, it depends on the kind of population and local culture you have in different areas of this country. Surat definitely has a lot of potential going the market way. We already have, market in this city, diamond and textile market, and people are more commercially oriented than politically oriented. I agree that in last 15 years of this BJP reign, people have been polarized in this state a lot, and but still, deep in their heart, they don't really care for politics. What they care for is their businesses. So as the businesses are getting, I think once they will wake up from this, opium of nationalism that is being, fed to them, they will realize that it is not going to feed their children or their families. It is not going to give them anything, and they will, once the central government is gone, I feel like places like Surat, for example, for sure will go the market way. I don't know about the other places. It can be anything. It can, in fact, my very dear friend Jen Bandari and I believe that it will be a very chaotic situation. Uh, Probably local gangs will take over, or we don't know. It depends on the culture of local population. I don't see that happening. But ultimately, what happens is we human beings are we have a tendency to cooperate. So after initial chaos, things will start to settle down. But even if you see history and theory, wherever you have decentralized governments like smaller independent principalities, progress always takes place. Because small, government, small place cannot become very powerful and become very oppressive, authoritarian like what is happening right now. So, and we can have a democracy can work in a better way if the population is small. Original Greek city states like Athens, who actually started democracies, the word, comes from, Greeks, and they had a very small population, a free population. And they used to keep an eye on their administrator. You are close to your rulers in the sense the administrators. Ruler are the people. You can observe what they're doing and you can punish them if they are not doing the job. Right now, a common man in a democracy, like people are masters, we cannot even go and meet our servants, government servants like politicians. They behave as if they are our masters and they talk about democracy and everything. So the chances of that happening in a smaller place will be less. So I don't know about other places, but I definitely know that Surat probability is pretty high that these kind of places where businesses, right now flourishing, they will go actually the market way. And what will happen is they will attract good people into their territories. Like what is happening? Surat is a city of migrant population. We have people from all the states of India right now, and everybody peacefully do business and everything. Nobody is, too much into politics. Politics is into north, right? Uttar Pradesh and Bihar and all this. This one state, Uttar Pradesh, just dominates all elections without any reason.
Yeah.
We can discuss about political changes later on. If people want to know about the reforms, which I don't believe in, but there is a lot of scope for doing those reforms also. Like we can, institute a Republican, like system, electoral college system like America, where a smaller state gets more votes instead of its size. Like for in America, if Iowa is a very small, but it has more electoral college votes, which decides who is going to become president. So that's the reason why politicians focus on Iowa more than California. California is a big state, but they have few electoral college votes. So in India also, we can have like Uttar Pradesh should have, instead of 90 seats, just 9 seats, because they're huge. They should not single-handedly influence the whole, result of the election. So political parties only focus on these few bigger states like Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, done. What about Mizoram? What about Manipur? What about Goa? What about smaller states in South? They don't get any attention because they don't have any say in those 554 or whatever Lok Sabha seats that we have. So maybe we can start with that. If some statist people want some kind of changes, some of your audience who thinks that no, dismantling nation state is not good, then okay, let's start with these kind of reforms at least in electoral system of this country. Why Uttar Pradesh and Bihar and Madhya Pradesh only decide everything? Why not Gujarat, which is or Maharashtra, which is highly economic performance states? So let's say that those who are putting more revenue into central fund, they should be having bigger say in deciding who's going to become prime minister or not, and not just because you are 10 crore, that's why you decide you have 90 Lok Sabha seat and you decide everything.
Yeah, that makes
Why
sense.
all the prime minister? Yeah, exactly. So let's start with that.
Yeah, one concern that I have with anarcho-capitalism in India, as you mentioned earlier about Jayant Bhandari, Jayant Bhandari also says that Indians are quite uncivilized people. We are arrogant. We don't follow the rules. We don't have a good culture. We, cut the queues. We bribe, and there's so much problems in India. So even though I'm an anarchist at heart, I sometimes feel like if we get rid of government, even if we get rid of government, we will still need governance. We will still need institutions. Otherwise, all these people, these local rowdies, hafta collectors, mafia people, they may take over and they may create new kind of problems, and that might have unintended consequences.
No, I mean, anarcho-capitalism does not mean any kind of no governance. We will have government. See, I'm not using the word government deliberately. I'm using word nation state. Both these things are different. Okay, nation state is a centralized power. We will have government, but our own voluntary local government, right? And in anarcho-capitalist society, which is basically, let me use the better word which Hans Hermann Hoppe uses, a private law society. We will have, in fact, more stricter laws and more stricter punishment and better security and better solution of every problem that we have. Okay. But as I'm saying, and Jayant is also not, he will not make a blanket statement. If you go deeper with him, if you ask him, he will say, no, places like Gujarat or places like Maharashtra or some places in South, for example, they have better, probability of doing well. Some places will be taken over by these kind of people, but not all places. And then when these places start, and when we have competition, we don't have political competition in this country, right? Like, let's say in America, states are separate. So if California is instituting horrible policies, Californians will move to Texas. Over here, we don't have anything like that. GST center is so strong, everything coming from center. So everything implementation is at the national level. Now, that means we don't have any choices. I cannot go from Gujarat to Maharashtra. There is little competition, very little, because everything is coming from the center now, especially with this government. It's heavy centralization of everything. So, for example, Gujarat cannot decide something different and attract more people and do well and become kind of a role model for everybody else. That possibilities will be there when we are going to have a decentralized a country, disintegrated country. So anarcho-capitalism does not mean that we are not going to have any kind of government. We will have a voluntary government. We will have a private law society if people decide to go along that road. And as I said, the probability of that is different in different places. We have to do a disintegrated analysis. We can't paint everybody with a broad brush at this position. But it will be better than what we have today for sure.
Yeah.
Whatever it will be.
At
least you have a chance to do something different.
Yeah.
We need to do something different. This is going on since last 75 years. I think it is high time that something else we think about. I have written one more article that instead of starting this party and that party, let's start a political party, youngsters like you and other people, me, no tax party. Our platform will be zero taxation. And then let's see voters what they're going to do. I mean, it's a very attractive platform for most people. Because see, Indians are all hypocrite, because on face everybody is nation, this, that. But when it comes to paying for the development of nation, Everybody is trying to, run away from paying taxes. I am actually a taxpayer because I work in the university. I don't have other choice but to pay my taxes because they cut before they give me. So I am actually a taxpayer, a very so-called honest taxpayer. Okay. So I am actually contributing in the development of this country. All these people who talk about it, they are just talking about it. How many of them are actually paying their taxes? Somebody like Amitabh Bachchan or Sachin Tendulkar, they will talk about but when the leaks come out, we know that they are, shifting their investment from India to, for example, Panama, or they are having some kind of shadow company going on somewhere. So what I'm saying is, let's start with this kind of a political party where the only platform is we are going to remove all taxation. Because remember, the nation state survives on the basis of taxation. That's their Achilles heel. That's their weakness. Now you attack that system on that point, and it will really create huge ripples. So some youngsters, if they come together and start something like no tax political party, our platform is only one. We are not, promising anything, no policy complicated. We will immediately abolish all the taxes.
That's
Can you see what happens? Let's see.
that sounds very attractive, but I don't know. Like I would vote for no tax party definitely. But Indians are so illogical. If some guy says no taxes, no one will listen. If another guy says Jai Shri Ram, or if he says Pakistan, Pakistan, they'll vote for him.
Whatever it is, if and then if people are not voting for that party, then they deserve whatever is happening with them. At least they will not have any reason to say that there was no one to tell us that how to improve our condition. Here we are discussing, telling them this is what is needed. If you don't want to do it, then what can we do?
What is your opinion on these other political alternatives like Right to Recall Party and Sanjeev Sablok's Swarna Bharat Party?
No. They are just playing in the same 3x5 card of allowable opinion, trying to tinker here and trying to tinker there. That's not going to help us. As I said, it has to be completely challenged and dismantled. Actually, no tax platform is basically dismantling the nation state. In a way, if you don't have revenue, what are they going to do? Right? So they will have to withdraw from everywhere. So indirect way of attacking all these things. This is what, and it's also very attractive. And as I said, if people don't vote for this party, then fine, then you deserve what is happening with you. Please don't complain then. Whatever is happening with you, then accept that is your fate, for example. So I feel like we need some kind of really radical experimentation, in the political arena also, especially the youngsters who are frustrated with everything. Someone like you, because believe me, politics is not the answer of anything. Politicians are never going to solve any problems. Impossible, because they are politicians by definition, career politicians. It's their, lifelong bread and butter, and they are not going to destroy a system which is giving them livelihood, parasitical survival. Okay, so in one way or another way, they will find the way of, robbing us and killing us and murdering us. So that is the reason why we have to attack that system at its root. And that is why I'm saying, let's start no tax political party. Let's see what happens. What is wrong in trying?
There's one part of me that's very radical. That's like, get rid of the system, no tax. But then there's another part of me that's more pragmatic. It asks questions like, but is this possible? Should we instead look at more practical options? Now, in the national elections, in the central government elections, I voted twice in 2014 and 2019. I voted, and I voted for the lesser of two evils, not BJP, the other party. But in the upcoming national elections, I'm considering not voting at all. I'm considering boycotting elections and democracy, because I think my previous exercise of voting for the lesser of two evils is very inefficient, because it doesn't work. I've seen it fail because I voted for lesser of two evils, and I don't, even if that lesser of two evils win, it's not going to make that much difference. What is your opinion? Should we vote or should we not vote?
Okay. Personally, I have never voted in my life because I never found any good option. And I don't believe in choosing between lesser evil. I believe in choosing the good. And the good is available. and which is away from the present system, right? So my whole life is dedicated to achieve that good for this country and for this world. I am not going to compromise on my morals and my principles, right? And I don't care about practicality. If something is wrong, you should be opposing on the moral ground. It should be opposed on the ground of right and wrong. As I have written in my that article, radical approach, radical political, alternative, it's beyond time now we start doing the right thing instead of discussing what is the practical issue. So what if it is not practical? Who knows what is in the future? At least let's do the right thing. Okay, instead of supporting this evil system continuously, let's kick it out and do what is the right thing at least once in the lifetime. Then we will see what happens, right? It's just because if you keep on thinking like that, the system will perpetuate. Yeah. Right? And ultimately what will happen is frustration, like what happened with you. I realized at a very early young age that none of these guys deserve any of this voting, and the whole system is all same sham, and I don't want to be participant of any of this wrong thing. So I have never voted in my whole life. On that day, actually, I sit down and I read some good book by Rothbard or Spooner or something like that on the day of election. And I teach my students, that you should be utilizing the time for understanding, economics and other history and political science so that we can do the right thing for this country. I think it is high time we start thinking about the right things, doing the right thing instead of just doing cost benefit analysis. That's what Indians do all the time, right? Cost benefit analysis. World is not going to improve based on cost benefit analysis. We have to decide on what is right and what is wrong, which is basically ethical principles, morality. So that is what is required. So I have never voted. I know, and I think not only not voted, I try to give people the alternative, because I just don't want to criticize and just shut down, because people want to know what alternatives are there. I am not saying go completely anarcho-capitalist. That's not possible. Let's start by cutting all these bureaucracies of the government. How about that? Yeah. Rolling back this state is what is required. I am not for minimum government. I'm saying roll it back. If the tentacles are wide, then let's start cutting one tentacle after another of this leviathan. Okay, so education department gone, health department gone. Okay, everything gone one after another. And then everybody will realize that, well, we can live our life happily without all these things. People will know that, oh, if the state is not there, we can build our roads. We don't need the state to build our roads. Nobody will then ask, who will build the roads? Today I was in university with my wife, and she's also an anarcho-capitalist, and she was asking me about who will provide the security if there is no government. So I actually took her out of the campus and I went to meet the private security guard that guards our university. And I called him. I said, come here, tell me for who you work. He said, I work for a private security company called Shakti, and they are the ones who are paying my salary. I said, so here is your answer. Even in today's present condition, it's not the government that is protecting us. It is this private security company that is protecting us. And then I asked him that when do you see policemen in campus? He said, when politicians come for some program. So the policemen are only protecting the politician, the people who give them salary. So I'm saying, then what is the need of having a police, force? What are they good for? They take salary from our tax money. They are not protecting us. They are protecting the politicians. They are not protecting us, right? Banks, when they transfer money from one ATM to another, they don't send police inspector. They hire the private security company. If you go to a mall, in your city, for example, who is protecting the mall?
The private
security company. So the market is already doing all that work. Right? What is the need? You just have to open your eyes and see, observe. Right? So if they can, and who is building all these bridges and roads? Not the government, private companies who are given contracts by the government bureaucrats and politicians through their favorites.
Yeah.
So you just take out this, agents from in between, and we can directly hire L&T or whoever is. I can hire you. You can start your road construction company. I can hire you to build road for me. And because these are private companies competing in the market, the road quality and the prices of toll and everything will be very low. So today we pay taxes also, we pay tolls also, and what we are ending up is horrible roads and highways. Every year, that in India 1.5 lakh people die on roads. India is number one in terms of road accident deaths. Why? Nobody's questioning who is the owner of all these roads. Government. They are responsible. 500,000 people, are very badly injured and disabled for whole their life in road accidents in this country. Nobody cares. A privatizing role will immediately stop all this thing. In the sense, lessen the number. I'm not saying nobody will die on a private road, but surely not 1.5 lakh people.
Yeah.
It can be 1,500 people or 15,000 people. Even if it is going to result into one less death, that is an improvement over this present system. Because a right thing is to save one life. So let's do the right thing and say goodbye to the state and bring in the private enterprise system. So we are building roads, and one day I was going in a bus long time ago, and I saw the toll booth coming, and there were huge billboard. They say these are the people who are exempted from paying taxes, toll. Politicians, bureaucrats, judges, all state officials. Right? None of them are paying anything. We are paying taxes, we are paying tolls. The cost of building the roads is already very high, quality is worst, and still people say, who is going to build the road? We can use much less money to build much better road if we don't have this government. We are capable of hiring a good company to build road for ourselves. We don't need the politicians for doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do people need politicians to survive and live their life?
No. That's true. And for me, this thing was slightly obvious, but it became very evident, not just for me, but for millions of young people who became awakened during this whole COVID circus. What is your opinion on how India has dealt with this COVID circus with all their lockdowns and their mandates and all that nonsense?
That's horrible. I have written many articles on that. I told you that it's not COVID that is responsible for all this destruction of the economy and society. It's this senseless lockdowns implemented by the central government without thinking. I mean, when they implemented nationwide lockdown, maybe 3-4 states were experiencing some cases. Northeast, for example, Meghalaya, Manipur, Tripura, Arunachal, they had 0 cases. What was the need of locking down everyone? And then after Modi experience, he saw that it's creating a lot of damage to the economy. He pulled out, and now he's saying states will decide. Then you should have done that from the beginning itself. Let the state governments decide. But and now he's blaming Congress for that also. I mean, what Congress has to do with that? Your government is in power since last 7-8 years now. What Congress has to do with that? But that is their game. When Congress will be in power, they'll say BJP is doing this or Aam Aadmi Party is doing this. When Aam Aadmi will be, they will keep on playing this game. And in that, they will continue to rob and kill us, all these political parties. So the lockdowns were completely unnecessary. Now, even at the international level, now studies after studies are coming out and saying that they are harmful. Even Johns Hopkins University studies now saying that lockdowns are unnecessary and they are more harmful than any beneficial. And according to their estimates, it reduced the death rate by mere 0.2%. And then compared to that, so many other people suffered, died because of other diseases, and so much discrimination going on around the world in the name of COVID, this vaccine mandates and not treating the pay. I mean, as if the unvaccinated people are second-class citizens, right? I know in Mumbai, they were saying that if you're unvaccinated, you cannot ride trains, you cannot go to mall. I mean, is our government creating 2 tiers of, citizens, right? This is worse than Hitler, I guess, and people are not saying anything about. But now you can see protests are erupting all over the world, especially in Canada, what the truckers are doing.
Yeah.
And in America also, there is some sense left. So the Supreme Court American Supreme Court said that this vaccine mandates are all unconstitutional. They just knocked it down. And over there, more states like Texas and Florida, South Dakota, they said we are not going to implement any of this thing. It's just a virus. It's just a cold and cough virus. I mean, let me give you a number very quickly. What is the total number of COVID cases, so-called COVID cases? Let's not discuss all the fraud RT-PCR tests and everything. Okay, the Center for Disease Control (CDC) in America has stopped using RT-PCR from 31st December 2021 because they said it gives more false positive than actually positive cases. The guy who invented this RT-PCR test, right? He himself said, Carey Mullis, that this test is not for diagnosis purpose. It is just to create more viruses in the lab for experimentation, right? But who listens to people like Carey Mullis or right? Even the inventor of mRNA vaccine technology, Dr. Robert Malone, is now sounding alarm bells, and he's been banned from YouTube and Twitter and everything. So Indian government is right now completely captured by these globalist powers. I have interviewed Johan, on how this public health of India is all corrupted, and all these people who are benefiting from this lockdown and COVID, they are the ones who are sitting into powerful position deciding everything. Your viewers can watch that interview of mine with Johan Tengra. Johan has done wonderful work in kind of finding out, investigating all these connections between people and everything. So it was totally unnecessary, right? It's absolutely against natural human rights, and it should stop immediately. All this, what we call COVID EOC, right? COVID idiocy should stop immediately. It's just a virus. Take it as a virus, right? It's not even deadly. And they should have allowed, they should have never implemented. But what the prime minister wanted to do was, he wanted to show as if he can defeat the virus also. And he, as usual, like any other politician, he wanted to, take all the credit of saving India from this disaster. But then, of course, virus is a virus. Virus is not going to listen to the prime minister. Virus is doing its own thing. And then he realized that this is a virus, we cannot control it. So now they say, we don't know anything, you decide. They are just issuing some kind of suggestion and this and that. Okay. So by and large, as I said, it's now over, but we lost 2 years of our precious time. Kids lost their school. I mean, I did not understand why they shut down schools and everything, because kids are taking this virus very nicely. The mortality rate in that age group is almost zero. Nobody's dying because of COVID in that group, right? So there was no need. But now it has become some kind of, politicians have realized that people are not saying anything. So something happens, shut down the school, shut down the colleges, shut down gym. What is the need of closing down gymnasium? People are going there and walking out and staying healthy. I tell you what, at the local, at the micro level. Now, for example, to keep your good health, we take supplements, right? Because our modern food does not give us all nutrients. So I used to take supplements like vitamin D or, fish oil, omega-3 and everything. So these supplements, they come from abroad, good quality. So Indian government, when COVID was going on, instead of reducing the import duty on the supplements, right? They increased the duty, they doubled the duty from 40% to some 80%. So the government does not want you to have this supplement and improve your life, right? Make yourself healthy. A healthy body is going to fight any kind of infection. How lockdown or wearing mask or all these things are going to help? It's completely mindless. And all this stupidity should stop immediately. I think Canadian truckers had enough of it, and now they are just doing whatever is needed, right? And I think we should do the same thing. Indian government has realized, because economic tank and the growth rate in that quarter was like minus 23% or something like that. And they realized that this is really going to damage everything. So they immediately, started going back. So I think overall it's a complete disaster, like any other political, action. Political, I think they don't know what is going on at the ground level.
Yeah. The political class and even the bureaucratic class. Even I'm from here. I'm from Mangalore in Karnataka. right? So even here, I haven't taken the vaccine because I don't need it. I'm healthy and I'm young. I belong to the statistical group that is not affected by COVID at all.
Yeah.
And we started a small group here. We went to the city's corporation commissioner. We gave them all scientific evidence as to why we don't need the vaccine, but you're not allowing us to malls and theaters. This doesn't make sense. It's unconstitutional, unscientific. And finally he gave up. And he made one statement that is very typical. You will hear this from bureaucrats all the time. Our hands are tied. We are getting orders from top. We have to follow this. Now get out of the office. That's what they say.
Yeah, but that's what is the danger of having a centralized state. Basically, the local people, even if they understand, they cannot follow their own policies. They cannot frame their own policies, right? If there is political competition, let's say Mangalore can say, we are not instituting anything, like in U.S.A. Texas, Florida, South Dakota, nothing. No mask mandates, no vaccine mandates. In fact, the governor of Florida, DeSantis, is heavily against all this thing. He appointed a doctor, chief doctor, who is against all this nonsense. And they are saying we should not be, fear should not be the base of making public policy. That's what these people are doing right now, scaring everyone, threatening everyone, right? And then, see, remember, bureaucrats and politicians, all these people who support lockdowns, they will not understand because their salaries continued even during the lockdown, right? Everybody who is supporting, they did not get the pay cut. So they are not feeling any kind of pinch of what happens when your business is closing down for 1 day or 2 days, when you don't have enough money to feed yourself, right? 50% or more business in Surat is completely finished, right? Only big people are surviving. So this government is actually creating more and more monopoly now, which is not good for the country. Look at the telecom sector. Now only two players are there. Vodafone is almost taken over by the government now with whatever 43% of equity share. So Birla pulled out and they harassed them a lot. So what are we going to have? Just one telephone company, Jio, and Ambani is going to charge a bomb to everyone. Monopoly is known for two things only: high prices and worst quality services. So we only have two companies now. Auto sector also one after the other companies getting out. So this Make in India is just going to, make poverty in this country and unemployment and nothing else, and very high inflation.
Yeah. This lockdown was terrible government policy, but if you go a little bit back, a few years, if you go back, a similar thing happened in 2016. That is demonetization. I think that was the first time that I saw a prime minister take such a radical step that was so arrogant and it did so much damage. How did you react during that time?
Oh, immediately. See, I was watching television at 8 and I was not watching the news channel, something else. Then people started running out in my apartment. I was like, what happened? So I went out and I see everybody's rushing to bank and everything. And I started, what happened? I told my dad what happened. So we started television and Narendra Modi is talking about all this thing. And I immediately that very night, I recorded my video in which I just say that this is going to be a complete disaster because you cannot discontinue money like that, which is like 85% of total money supply of this country at that time, right? it, Money is, I mean, if I have to use a very loose kind of analogy, money is like lifeblood. It keeps the whole economy greased. It makes transaction exchange possible. You take out that common medium of exchange, and you destroy the exchanges and the economies and the market and everything. It's just going to create chaos. So I immediately discuss all those things, and immediately we started saying what happened. It was, I mean, I don't know who told him to do this thing. I'm sure the globalist power, who, somebody like Kenneth Rogoff, internationally, they are, the statist people are discussing cashless economy since long. And now we are moving in that direction slowly with this digital currency of RBI and imposing 30% taxes on cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and everything. So What they want is they want cashless economy, and cashless economy is total control of our lives. So once they have our money into their hands, they can just shut us up anytime. Like, for example, if I am speaking anything against government, for example, I'm speaking truth, not against or for anyone. But if they think that I am going to be a dangerous person or somebody who is allowing people to think critically, they will say, okay, we are going to shut your bank account and we are going to confiscate all your money, and what are you going to do now? So any kind of political dissent or anything is going to become very difficult if this RBS digital currency is going to be there. And I am seeing that although we still have a lot of cash circulation, but that's what the powers to be are trying right now. So demonetization was a completely disaster policy. I mean, completely mindless, senseless. I don't know who told him to do all these things. I hear the name of accountant from Pune, Anil Bokal, that he was, or somebody said Ramdev Baba was also talking about. But I mean, only prime minister like this can do such things. I mean, I'm sure it was a globalist experiment that what happens when you suddenly cancel the currency of an economy. So overall, it was total disaster. We are still feeling the effects of all those things, right? And what it accomplished? Absolutely nothing. They themselves kept on changing the goalposts. I remember they said it is for black money, it is for reducing terrorism. I don't know how that is going to reduce terrorism, right? And it was for taxation purpose or something like that. None of those three criteria were met. Terrorism is in fact rising right now. Okay. All the cash is again in the economy. Nobody is talking about black money, Swiss bank account now. Everybody forgot everything. There is no 15 lakh in anybody's account. It's all forgot. People have very short-term memories. Politicians know how to manipulate people psychologically. They hire, basically professionals to do that. See, for example, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he's not a self-made person. There's a whole team of marketing people working behind him, like Barack Obama, for example, or Joseph Biden right now in America. These people, if you put them on their own, they cannot, say a word on their own. It's all a show. It's basically a manipulation game. It's basically PR, as Edward Bernays wrote in his famous book Propaganda, right? He was a nephew of Sigmund Freud, psychoanalysis, expert, inventor of that method, and he was the one who was behind all this kind of propaganda. You should read, everybody should read that book by Edward Bernays, Propaganda, and that how they manipulate the people, their mind. I know every year they bring one or the other virus. Sometimes it is swine flu, sometimes it is Zika, sometimes it is bird flu. But this time around, COVID was very successful in spooking the people because of this use of mobile and social media. I remember back when, mobiles were not there, they were still trying with MERS and SARS and all those, right? But with this social media all around, I think that is the reason why Facebook was also started by the US military and CIA. If you go in details, then these people are funded and started by them. So they were planning all these things, way ahead of time. Johan will, tell you about all these things, in details, because he is a conspiracy researcher. And remember, all these conspiracy theories are actually conspiracy facts, right? Just because people, and the word itself, conspiracy theories, is coined by the statist people, government, who want to basically discredit the people who are questioning the government, the state, who are making people think critically. So it was a disaster. All these policies, GST, demonetization, and everything, nothing happened, just damage, for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, I agree with you.
See, okay, yeah, just one more point I want to make very quickly. It's very ironic, and one side, let's say that, let's give benefit of doubt to Narendra Modi and say that he is really serious about making India a great country. Let's give him a benefit of doubt and agree that he actually is a passionate man. He's true to his heart. He has nothing but good for the Indians. Even then, he has to follow the right policies. Right, like Mahatma Gandhi, for example. Now nobody can question the intentions of Gandhi, right? that he wanted power or this or that. Nobody can question that at least. But his ideology, his policy of supporting socialism was wrong, which basically gave a false start to this country in 1947. Okay. So if those people believed in market and capitalism, India would have been a completely different country by now. So even if Narendra Modi is serious and people, all these nationalist people are serious for making India a superpower, this is not the way to make India a superpower. This is actually going to make India a very poor country. And remember, a poor country cannot defend itself from its enemies. So right now, if I am Pakistani Prime Minister or Chinese Premier, I am not going to worry about India because India is destroying itself. I am just going to sit on the border and see the show, take popcorn and just enjoy that how these people are destroying themselves. You follow the right policy. Why America could become superpower? Because they had internal free markets. They generated so much of wealth. Because remember, to win war territories, you require resources. Resources can only be generated by a market capitalist economy, so system. Socialism is never going to give you the resources that are required to become a superpower. A poor country cannot defend itself. A poor country cannot become a superpower. Nirmala Sitharaman in the present budget, he was saying India is going to become the fastest growing economy, and I was laughing. And actually, I'm writing one article. India's per capita income is something like 2,000 US dollars. America's per capita income is 65,000 US dollars. What fastest growing economy, right? It's even if it is, your size itself is this small. Even if you grow at 100%, you're not going to become this big, which is America or China, right? America and China, they are like 30% of the world economy right now. And you are not even 2% or 1%. How are you going to compete with them? You're talking about all this can fool the local public, right? Gullible Indians, voters. But it is not going to change the fact that India is a poor country, third world, fourth world country, and it is not going to improve unless we start, first of all, accepting that there is so many wrong things with this country.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then we start working on that. Okay. So these kind of policies of damaging your own country is counterproductive. Even if Narendra Modi is honest, let's say, this is not the right way of making India a superpower. This is absolutely wrong, opposite way of making it. This is not going to make India a superpower. It's going to destroy this country. Again, I am talking from an objective perspective, right? I don't mind if India becomes superpower, right? But this is not the way in which it is going to become superpower. That is for sure. That I know for sure. Right? And anybody who will study basic economics will know these things. Yeah.
And one more thing I think that a lot of us learned during demonetization is that government should not have a monopoly on printing currencies, and
but government
should not have a monopoly on printing currencies. Right now they have a monopoly on that, and that monopoly is slowly being snatched away because of cryptocurrencies. So, what do you think of the emerging nature of cryptocurrencies?
I support any alternative that is coming up in the market, which is challenging the monopoly currency of any government, right? Now, whether that is viable or not, that is not for me to decide. We are saying that many governments around the world are trying to hijack cryptocurrency. That is what my worry is right now. That Bitcoin, they will remove it, and then like RBI bringing its own digital currency, right? So if they do that and they impose this 30% tax now, like gold, on Bitcoin also, right? So it's a good thing that we are trying to create alternative, right? Making awareness. But then, as I said, we have to also understand that whether Bitcoin is going to do this thing or not. Something that cannot be controlled by the government. We need that thing. And I have always believed that it's basically we have to go from gold and silver and stuff like that. Start at the local level. Okay, something that government can, just switch off your currency, electricity, power, or whatever, and they can just completely stop all this transaction. That can be dangerous. But overall, I support the whole movement, right? Because especially the youngsters, But what I'm saying is Bitcoin, instead of becoming an alternative viable currency competing against government's monopoly currency, it has only become a speculative vehicle. Most Indians or most people go into that not because of this ideological position that they have, that, okay, I'm going to support Bitcoin because it is going to give me more freedom. Okay, it is going to dismantle the government monopoly on currency money. Most people don't do that. They don't even know about that. Over here, everybody's like, okay, the price is going up. That's why I'm going to bet on that. It's speculation. That is not going to serve the purpose with which Bitcoin actually started. I don't know, 11, 12 years ago. I have been following Bitcoin since its inception. Satoshi Nakamoto and all that. Because in our Austrian circle, we are always keeping an eye on what alternatives are coming up in the market to provide basically recourse to people that they can go away from the state monopoly. Sorry. Anyway, so Bitcoin is a good thing, but it is just a speculative vehicle right now, and that is not going to help, I think.
Can libertarianism or anarcho-capitalism save India?
Save India. I again see India is a very broad concept. It's a collective term, right? These ideas can save any society if they are rightly implemented, theoretically speaking. Okay. But the big question is how that is going to become possible. I mean, just saying free market is not going to help, because for free market to come into existence, or for libertarianism or capitalist, anarcho-capitalist societies to come into existence, you require that, that kind of culture, those kind of cultural values amidst the population. If people like, for that's why I said, let's float this no tax party, see how many people are supporting no tax party. We will come to know how much traction these ideas are going to have in this country. It's a very good experiment, right? Let's do a natural random experiment and see. And if we find out that these are the people, maybe we can take them to one place and start our own country. And then we can start competing with all the statist people, show them that we can do well, we can perform well, life can go on without the state. And maybe then some of them will start to convert. So theoretically speaking, all these ideas are going to help anyone, but how to bring them into existence is the biggest question. Okay, that kind of culture is not available everywhere. Again, as I said, in places like Surat or maybe Mumbai, that kind of culture is there more than other places. We can only make relative comparison. There is nothing good, absolute, in world. Forget about India. There is no heaven. But Surat is better than Baroda, or Surat is better than, let's say, some place in Uttar Pradesh, or some place in Bihar or Madhya Pradesh or Rajasthan, or Chennai is better than Mangalore, for example. I don't know, right? So that can happen, that can help. But that kind of cultural, value system must be in place, first of all, before market or capitalism can come into existence. Because remember, historically, capitalism came into existence in the Western society because they had that culture ready, with political disintegration in Europe. And that is how the Judeo-Christian values of hard work and responsibility and all those things, these values were present. If you don't have these values, you cannot have market, you cannot have libertarianism, you cannot, what happens, as Jayant always talks about, you bring some concept in India from Western society and Indians will make something completely different out of that. Okay. So, I mean, imposing the word liberty in India is not going to help, because Indians don't understand what liberty is. It's not going to work like that. Copy pasting. This is a long, arduous work. Person like you, me, we have to work at the ground level slowly, 1% at a time. And maybe we can create a sizable minority which can then start bringing changes. Research says that around 4% of population must be there who believe in some idea, and that idea can then take hold. We don't even have that 4% minority in this country who understand. I mean, there are a handful of people who understands what liberty is and what markets are and what capitalism is. Okay, so I believe it's an educational job right now. So we should be working at the ground level, explaining individuals and see if something happens in future. I don't know, 1,000 years, 10,000 years, a million year, who knows? But theoretically speaking, it definitely will help. There is no doubt about that. If it can be implemented, right? Ideology, idea is not a problem. Practical implementation is a problem.
Yeah. I think more than trying to change politics, we have to change our culture first. Why?
Yes, of course.
Why do you think so many Indians are blindly obedient and corrupt? Do you think it's a result of religion and culture and upbringing?
Oh my God. Oh, okay. This will take us into a deeper area. See, I will tell you very quickly what my studies tell me. It has to do with, again, very broad brush, low IQ of people. And low IQ is basically because of the geography that we have. Now, very broadly speaking, if you see the area of tropics, you take out any weather map and you see this belt where the heat is always there, right? Around the tropics, these places are mostly underdeveloped because over here it's a lot of heat, which doesn't give a lot of energy to brain to function. Ice is not there, life is easy. You put something in the ground and it will grow without any kind of hard work. So the brain development hasn't taken place. And because low IQ is there, the culture will not develop because the processing system is not there. In fact, in Bangalore, researchers have measured, they have carried out a survey of the skull size of Europeans, Caucasian race, and the East Asian race like Chinese and other, and Indian race. They found out that on an average, Indian skull itself is smaller than all these other people. So in that small skull, your brain size is also small. Now with that kind of brain size, I mean, it's very difficult to understand this higher cultural values like liberty and freedom and all that. Okay, socialism, equality and all that comes naturally to us. Envy. To control your envy and to realize that how private property and all these things is going to make life better, it requires that higher superior brain, which is simply not available. Indian IQ right now, I mean, 10 years ago was around 82 on an average. Okay. And now it's falling. Latest number says is 76. So with that IQ level, and the standard IQ level is 100. If you see China, Japan, Taiwan, South Korea, Singapore, all these well-performing economies, their IQ levels are all above 100, right? South Korea is number one, for example. Their IQ is like average 107. Okay, China 105, Japan 105, 106. They all are performing well. If you actually see a very good correlation, take a world map of IQ and study that. Okay, I know these are controversial issues, but this is what I believe in. We have to understand that the processing itself is not, Indian brain will not grasp all these ideas. I'm a teacher, I go in the classroom. No matter how much you explain to them, they don't understand it because the brain is not capable enough to absorb all these things. And they'll be, like staring at you as if you are just doing something which they really don't understand. So for in this kind of situation, and I believe low IQ can be improved. I'm not saying it's given with good nutrition, but we don't even have that. We don't have good nutrition. And that discussion will take me into very controversial territory. So I'm not going there.
Yeah. That's another thing. We are more obsessed with the banning the meat of an animal than actual scientific things.
Yeah. So if your nutrition is going to be there, right, then the brain power can improve because IQ is not a static thing. If you give proper food to people, to children, their brain power will improve, and then there are chances of cultural changes. It's a basically positive feedback mechanism. Okay, good culture, you understand, okay, food is important, and then you eat good food, and it's a virtuous cycle. Right now it's a vicious cycle basically. Maybe somebody from outside will have to come and then do something about India, and then the things can restart again. I don't see any possibility of that right now. Who knows when this India disintegrates, maybe then something will happen. We don't know. But it comes to this. I mean, 50% of more adult population of India is malnutrition. Now, how are you going to think? Because brain requires around 30% of total energy that we are consuming every day. If it is not going to get that energy, the brain is not going to work. And if it is not going to work, it is very difficult to create and develop that kind of culture which can bring up this kind of civilization.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, well, these are all, but nobody's going to talk about all these things.
Another political issue that happened recently, uh, which is connected again to India's socialism and the capitalism debate, were those recently scrapped farm laws. Some people, some libertarians actually support it, some libertarians are against it. Some libertarians are saying maybe these farm laws would have brought more capitalism into our Indian agricultural sector. But then some libertarians are like, no, no, it's all rubbish. It'll give more, it'll create more monopolies in the hands of Ambani and Adani. What did you think of these farm laws?
I have written a detailed article on that. I will advise your readers to go and read that article of mine on. So I run my own institute, Mises India Institute, misesindia.in. So they can read that. But overall, I say that you cannot reform the system like that. If you want some kind of improvement in condition of people, then the government will have to get out from everything. Okay. Over here, they were not getting out. What they were doing is they were dismantling this, but then erecting another, a system which is still going to allow them to control everything. If you have read those two acts, I don't remember now then what those acts were, then I actually dissected the act itself, paragraph by paragraph. That, okay, they are not giving anything in. Remember, politicians are not going to give up power voluntarily, right? And changing one sector is not going to help. It has to be completely removed from all sectors. Only then improvement will come. Like you said that, okay, government is not going to be here. That's not going to help because it has ripple effect on everything else. Economy is one organic system. You can't just tinker here and there and expect changes to take place. You have to completely change it from its root and branch. Otherwise, there is no hope for any kind of improvement.
Do you think
So I was neither in favor of it. My position was something completely different. Yeah.
Do you think India will ever become a libertarian country?
Again, let's not talk in terms of this collective terms, India.
Sorry. Yeah, I think I have repeated that. I think I have to ask a more. I think I have to ask a more precise question. Do you think parts of India will become more libertarian or even anarcho-capitalist country?
Definitely. See, again, we have to talk in terms of probability because that's what life is. Life is probabilities. We don't know exactly this going. Chances are for places like, as I said, Surat or other, where business is, basically more, chances are that these places will, flourish. Maybe not in some other areas, but in some places, definitely. And then it will become a role model for everyone. Like America became a role model for the world. Why whole world goes to America? Everybody, hates America, but everybody wants to live in America also. Right? So maybe if Surat becomes like America of India, then everybody will come to Surat. Or Mangalore becomes, America of India, then everybody will go to Mangalore. We need political experimentation. This aggregate, experimentation. Centralized power is our problem. This nation state is our problem, and we should keep our eye on fixed on that particular institution. Everything else is a peripheral issue, not really important.
Yeah. And finally, what do you think we or me as an individual can do to push this country or push this region in a more libertarian direction?
See, you are already doing with this podcast and everything. As I always believe, it's an educational endeavor. We need to tell people about all these things and then hope something will happen. I personally don't expect anything. I just do the right thing. I know that this is the right thing to do without worrying about consequences. This somebody will like it or not like it, accept it or not accept. I don't care. I just do what is the right thing to do. So we all should be doing that. If we do that with passion, right, then there are chances of improvement. At least individuals. I have seen, there are many students who came into my classroom flaming statists and Modi supporters or Kejriwal supporters or whatever. And after, one semester, they all are like, you are right. This is all stupid. We don't want all this government and everything. So I have seen individuals' lives changing. So that's what we all need to do. Read more extensively, widely, educate yourself, make sure that your ideas are all completely coherent. Because if you are confused, you are going to confuse everyone. Like this minimum government people. They don't understand what you have to completely understand what liberty is. Then you can explain to other people. So youngsters' first job is to dedicate yourself to self-study of all this literature that is available. I believe 10 years is minimum required to fully grasp the importance and the significance of all these ideas. Then you launch yourself in education endeavor. You are doing already that. But if you are confused, you are going to confuse and you're going to actually damage the cause more than helping it. So I see the books behind you. That is a very good thing. Just self-study, read. And don't just focus on YouTube videos and everything. Many youngsters, they come and ask me, can you just give me a documentary which will cover everything? I said, there is no documentary which covers. You have to sit down and read these books. You have to read Human Action. You have to read Man, Economy and State. You have to read as much as you can in this one life. Then your whole worldview will form and you will know what is where and what is needed to be done and what is needed to be removed and everything. Before that, don't open your mouth, right? Because as Rothbard said, if you start expressing your opinion without understanding the subject, it's very dangerous. So education,
Yeah.
educate yourself. Once you're confident, launch yourself, become a teacher. I wish that youngsters penetrate the academia. That is what I've been trying in this country since long. I don't know how much successful I am, but I'm trying. We need to send this free economy and free-minded people into schools and colleges, classroom, where they will directly, counteract the status people who are right now teaching and who have hijacked the whole system. Because that is where the changes are going to come from. So become professor, become a teacher. I am the only one in academia right now who is into Austrian economics, liberty, and all that. I want more of you to enter these fields, right? Because these are official positions. Get your PhD, get your doctorate, get qualifications, so nobody can say, who are you? You're just a podcaster. You don't have any chance, right? Get that, do the hard work. And then go and oppose these people in conferences and seminars. It's an intellectual battle. We have to win this battle in that intellectual ground. Once we do that, we have some chance. Otherwise, it's very difficult. Okay.
I have only started my libertarian journey quite recently. I mean, just until last year, I was working for JP Morgan Chase, which is the exact opposite of libertarianism. I mean, they are the big banks. And, because of COVID, I was forced. I didn't even have a choice, but forced to think about libertarianism because suddenly reality itself changed to such an extent that you can't ignore big government anymore. It was right on my face. I couldn't even say no. I'm just going to ignore this. It came right on my face, and then I started studying more, started looking into things like looking into people like Johan Tengra, yourself, and Jayant Bandari. So thank you so much, Madhusudan, for inspiring us and for educating us and for coming on this podcast. I've learned a lot from this 1 hour conversation with you.
Thank you, Pratham, for inviting me and giving me platform to express my ideas. As I always believe, this is a lifelong journey for me, and I'm sure for people like you also. So keep on doing the good work that you are doing. Don't worry about what is going to happen. It's going to change or not. Just do the right thing. Once you realize what the truth is, hold on to it and spread it without worrying for anything. At least when you will die, you will be like, okay, I did the right thing. What was the impact in that? Not history will decide. We don't, I don't care. You should also not care about all those things. So thank you very much for inviting me on your show. And allowing me to express my ideas and everything. Thanks a lot.